Hi and welcome to today's video. Today is the third volume or third episode of my pens in my collection videos, and today we're looking at 5 more pens that I use pretty regularly, and I'll tell you a little bit about what I like about the pen and why it's in my collection. And the 5 pens today start with the Wingsung 3008 or 3008, which is a piston-filled pen, which is probably one of the most affordable piston-filled pens on the market, and it is generally a pretty decent writer. Next, we have the Jinhao X450, which is one of the ones that I use, which I have put a Goulet Pens Medium Nib on. You'll see all this, of course, in more detail when I change the camera angle. Next, we have the Twsbi Eco. This is the fine nib, which is in the completely clear model, which I quite like. Then we get the Lamy Safari All Black, which was this year's sort of limited edition, special edition pen. And then finally, a very special pen, a pen that I hold up as probably one of my absolute all-time favorite pens, and was a little bit of a sort of a minor grail pen when I got it, and that is the Pilot Custom 823. I have this in a broad, and it is one of the best pens I've ever used for a number of reasons, and I'll go into that when I do the writing sample and everything a little bit later. So that's the 5 pens. Let's change the camera angle, and I'll see you later. Okay, so here we have just a little rodeo dot pad, and let's start with the first pen. This is the Wingsung 3008. As I said, it's a piston filled pen. I have it here with sort of that blue finish and the silver trim or chrome trim. The pen is screw to cap, and it's relatively sort of secure and well built, and it's got a sort of a pretty decent fine nib on it there. It's quite a fine, and a sort of a bit of a soft nib, so you can manage sort of I wouldn't say soft in terms of springy or flex, soft as in pliable. So I've been able to open it up a little bit and get a sort of a bit more ink running through it. It's a really interesting pen. When it came out on the market, it sort of really sort of surprised a lot of people, myself included. I've had a few of these that are of this particular model that aren't so great. A couple have leaked from around the seal on the end of the grip section, and some of the pistons aren't necessarily as smooth as one would like. But generally, these pens, they're quite remarkable. I currently have this inked with Robert Oster Fire and Ice. So as you can see, for a fine, it actually lays down quite a nice line, particularly for sort of these Wingsung sort of pens. It's pretty wet. It's smooth. There's a little bit of feedback, but it's pretty smooth. It's certainly not the smoothest pen on the market, but what is remarkable about these pens is just the price point. They were more expensive when they first came out, but now you can get them for around $3, including postage to Australia, which is just ludicrous for a piston filled pen that is this well made. Yes, it does have a certain resemblance to one of the Twsbi models, but there are certain elements that are pretty much knockoffs. But as a pen in its own right, and how it actually works and how it writes, you really can't complain sort of too much about this pen. Now, when I said that the nib is sort of a bit sort of malleable, you can sort of, if I sort of apply a little bit of pressure, you can just see it sort of bounce a little bit there, and it does open up to lay down a little bit more ink. It's certainly not flex. It's not line variation so much as just letting more ink onto the page, which is nice in its own right. That was the Wingsung 3008. The next pen is the Jinhao X450, here in what is probably my favorite finish of the Jinhao of this particular model. This sort of lovely sort of red crackled sort of and black trim with the gold. I've put a Goulet Pens Medium two-tone nib on this pen. This is currently inked with Diamine Monaco Red. Oh, and it's just not writing. Maybe I'm running low. Yes, after opening up, as you can see, the pen is running a little low on ink. I didn't realise I'd work through quite so much, so I just primed it just a little bit, and we'll hopefully get some writing out of it now. As you can see, this pen, well, the feed has just been primed, so it's going to lay down a little bit more ink, but these do write pretty wet, and with this Goulet nib, made by Yovo, it writes very, very smoothly. So this is Diamine. Monaco Red. Yeah, nice, wet, smooth writer. When you think that these pens cost something in the range of $3 to $4, and you put a $15 nib on it, you're getting what is effectively a $20 fountain pen that writes this well. It's quite astounding, really. They're a really, really very remarkable pen. A couple of little issues. I'm not a fan of the little facets grip on the grip section there. I tend to find that my fingers land there, but it's sort of, I prefer, say, the grip section of the X450. It's one of the only things about the 750 that I do prefer over this pen. And also, of course, there's the cap liner, which, as I've said on other videos, is a bit of a problem with these Jinhao pens. But as you can see, the Jinhao X450 with a Goulet, I should write that, it's a Goulet nib. Pretty fantastic pen, especially for the cost. Next is the Twsbi Eco. Now, this was the first Eco I got, and it's had some problems, but every other Twsbi pen I've had has been pretty much perfect. This is a fine nib, which writes smoothly and well. The only issue it's ever had is that it's burped a lot. It doesn't matter what I do, it tends to sort of, burp just a little bit occasionally. But here we have. This is a fine. Oh, I really can't write today. This is inked with Pilot Blue Black. Now, when I got this ink, I was hoping it was going to be the same blue black as the Pilot Petite, which I think has a fabulous blue black ink. This is a little bit too blue for my taste, but the ink performs really well and it looks nice on the page. It's just a nice, for me, this is a nice dark blue as opposed to a blue black. As for the pen, yeah, it's reliable. When it's not burping, it's doing a great job. It's smooth. It's, you know, it keeps up beautifully. These Twsbi pens are really very fabulous. Now, if I was going to nitpick a little bit about the design, the little lips there at the end of the grip section, I'm not necessarily a fan of. I don't like the way the pen posts. I don't like the Twsbi pens posting on O-rings everywhere. Like, it seems to be like they can't seem to work out how to engineer the posting of a pen. Also, posting this makes it quite a long pen. It's certainly not a pen that needs to be posted in terms of length. I do like the design. Lots of people don't like the cap. I actually think it's sort of cool. I like the hexagonal sort of shape, and they're just a really nice pen. The clear is probably not my favourite finish. I really do like the black and the white models, but this is a good looking pen nonetheless. The next pen is the Lamy Safari 2018 all black. Now, this is inked with Lamy black. Amazing they didn't come out with a new ink, but it's a really very classy pen, and a pen that has stood up to decades of design and use in its various different finishes. But these matte finishes I think are really great. I've got a few of them. I mean, actually, I've made a video about this already, but if I just put this is the charcoal and the black next to each other, you can see, I'm not sure how much the light's picking it up here, but you can see that there is a distinct difference in those colours. I'll also link to the video where I compare the two below. The grip is going to be an issue for some people. That's always going to be the case with these pens. Some people won't like the clip. I actually, once again, think this is a really good looking pen. It fits that Lamy sort of design ethos of, you know, function over form in a lot of ways, and it does everything it needs to. The clip is great, it's secure, it writes first time every time, the ink window lets you see through, it's sturdy, it's well made, it's nice in the hand, the nibs write smoothly. What's there to complain about? So here is the Lamy Safari, all black. I have this with a medium nib, and the ink is Lamy black. Now, Lamys aren't the wettest pens, but as you can see, it does a pretty good job. It's smooth, the flow is excellent, it lays down a good sort of steady line. It's nothing fancy, but it is a really lovely pen to write with. Now, last on the list today is a special pen, the Pilot Custom 823. Now, if any of you have written with one of these, you'll know exactly what I mean. This pen has a fabulous nib on it. It's got a great ink capacity. It looks great. It feels beautiful in the hand. The quality of the material is, you can feel it in your fingers, just how beautiful that is. Now, this is a vac filling pen, so it's full of ink at the moment, so I won't sort of operate the mechanism, but to write and to let ink through, you open up the valve at the end there. It opens up a little, I don't think you'll be able to see it, but there's a little seal on the bottom of the piston rod, which shuts off the ink chamber, which is great for me. I travel a lot for work, so this pen sort of comes with me on a lot of those trips. It's not a cheap pen. It's one of the, in Australia it retails for several $100s, but I think it's really worth it. It's a beautiful pen. It's a pen that if you had only one pen and it was this pen, I think you would be absolutely fine with that. So this is the Pilot Custom 823 with a broad nib, and the ink is Mont Blanc. Lavender purple. My biggest criticism about this pen is that the nib is so smooth that it tends to skip on papers like Rhodia. It just glides so easily that occasionally it just doesn't put ink on the page. And I don't use Rhodia much outside of sort of these reviews. I tend to use Leuchtturm and notebooks by a company called Greenwood Classic here in Australia, and also Baron Fig, which are slightly coarser paper, so you do tend to get a little less of that sort of skipping. But this pen, it's just, well, there you see, it sort of skips across there, and of course if there's any oil on the paper, it just goes with it. But you can see just what a beautiful pen this is and how smoothly and easily it writes. It's a nice sort of Japanese broad, which is sort of closer to a Western medium, but it's just a fabulous and lovely pen to write with. This is one of my top 3 pens in my entire collection. I just absolutely love it. Now the nib is a little bit springy, so you know I'm not going to push it, but you can sort of get, if no pressure and then a little bit of pressure, you can get a little bit of line variation. It's not something I tend to do. I think that this pen was designed to write a particular way, and that's how I write with it. And it's beautiful and smooth and reliable, and yeah, I can't say enough good things about this pen. If you're in the market for a pen that's a little bit sort of more than the everyday writers, the sort of those things like the Twsbi 580s and you know, a range of sort of the Pilot Custom 74, things like that, this is a pen you should definitely think about. It's a good size, great weight, just feels perfect in the hand. There's not a lot to say bad about this pen. So today we had a look at the Wingsung 3008, the Jinhao X450, the Twsbi Eco Fine, the Lamy Safari with a medium nib, and the Pilot Custom 823. Hope you found this video useful and interesting as another example of 5 more pens from my collection. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications button to stay up to date with the videos that I produce. I've got a couple of interesting reviews coming out shortly, so keep an eye out for those. If you've got products you think I should look at, please feel free to get in touch. You can do that with via email or any of the platforms listed below, or comment here on this video. I'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, enjoy your pens, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you later.